This message is intended as a reminder that we are not licensed professionals, not psychiatrists or psychologists. If you have a serious problem, please seek professional help. The National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Hearing all these letters read aloud by damsels not in distress. Host came to impress. Bitch, check your DMs. This is hot off the press.
Hello.
And welcome to another episode of Damsels in the DMs.
What's been going on? What's been going on in your world?
Well, what's been going on in my world? Oh, so I am dyeing my mom's hair later today. And I gave my dad a haircut earlier this week. So I'm officially becoming a hairdresser. And then they are trying to be nice, and they're like, "Oh, do you want me to cut your hair also?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. I don't know why you idiots are trusting me with your hair, but I do not trust you guys with my hair."
Your hair's looking long. Let's see it.
Super long. The thing is, I've never dyed my hair, so that's not really the problem. But the problem is that it has layers and an angle. So I don't know. I just feel like that they could easily screw that up, you know?
That's how they get you when you go. They're like, do you want layers? And it's like, I guess, sure. And then you have different lengths of hair all over your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. In September, I did this hair modeling thing, and they what is it called? It's called the American Wave. So they gave me an American wave, and then they added like a million layers to my hair. And the American Wave, I guess it's like the modern day perm. So it makes your hair pretty wavy. My hair was really curly for a while, but then it kind of they say it lasts a year. It does not last a year because does my hair look curly whatsoever? No, it does not. But I love the rebranding of the perm to an American Wave because obviously perm is outdated. So now we call it an American Wave.
Very outdated. Was not outdated when I was in middle school though. Me and all the gals were getting our hair way too curly. But you're looking good, looking healthy.
You looking good. You looking healthy.
Hey.
And tell us about your birthday.
Oh yeah, I just had a birthday. And it was good. Yeah, I was feeling a little weird being out here away from, I think all my really close friends are back in DC and it's kind of away from them.
How long have you been living in LA at this point?
Just a year.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a really good birthday. My neighbors threw me like a little get together. We had a piñata. It was fun. And yeah, I actually got a birthday cake from a boy as well.
What?
Yeah.
Details,
yeah, this guy was from Hinge. We FaceTimed that Friday. It was
no way.
Friday after my birthday. Hinge, I guess I just keep going back to it. I don't know why. But yeah, so we FaceTime on Friday, and I gotta be honest, there were already several red flags I was seeing. Yeah. Well, I actually recorded a video of myself to remind myself, in case I did start falling for this guy, of the red flags.
And this video, I have to say, was the funniest thing that I have ever watched. And listen, Chloe, I think that you're a very funny person. I think you're talented. I am your number one fan. But this video is the best comedy you have ever created. And if you don't find a way to work this into your stand-up, you are only doing a disservice to your fellow fans.
There's several aspects of the video I'd like to point out before we play it.
Let's dissect it. I agree.
Because we're going to play it for you guys.
Yes, it has to be played.
I'm in my messy room. I have my tile mirrors. And if you could tell on the tile mirrors, it made my forehead look even larger than it is. There's a White Claw next to my bed because I had just had 4 of them on the date. And then, yeah, so it's like a warning to myself. And then at the end, I do this kind of message thing, which I don't know if you've seen going around. There's this message of this girl calling her manager. And she's like, this message is for Rachel. How dare you take me off the fucking schedule? That's what I modeled the video after.
Oh, that's good. Good. Use role models.
Yeah, so I guess let's just go ahead and play it.
Roll the clip.
So the ex-girlfriend was brought up twice. I find that weird. Like, it's like it got to the point where I had to be like, are we just done? Are we done with X or are we not? There was that. There was, like, he literally said, like, he's like, I don't want to present these as red flags, but I party a lot. And I'm like, I do too, but I keep it to a point where I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I'm falling into another fuckboy thing, and this message is for Chloe. You need to fucking recognize that the first date with this dude, you maybe knew it was not the one, so you're playing this on the podcast now to remind yourself to not be a fucking idiot. Okay, thank you, goodbye. So yeah, there were definitely some red flags on the first FaceTime date, but I don't know what, I don't know why I decided to meet him in person. I was already kind of turned off by those, but it was Sunday. I was kind of hungover, and I was like, going to Santa Monica going to the beach doesn't sound like the worst thing. And to my surprise, he got me a birthday cake.
So this is the first date?
He kept saying, he's like, this is the second date. And I was like, okay. I don't know why that was so important that our first date was the FaceTime date.
Oh, okay. But this is the first time meeting in person.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings the cake to the first time meeting in person.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue.
People had mixed feelings about that. Do you have any initial thoughts on it?
I think that's fucking weird, no? Like, sorry. To bring a cake, like, I get that it was your birthday, but I feel like there could have been something more thoughtful. I get that he was trying, but why don't you tell us a little bit about the flavor of the cake? Because I think the flavor is the part that gets to me.
Okay, so first of all, we go on this date and he says, oh, I have something in the oven for you, or for us. And when we get back home, and I'm like, okay, it's dead body, obviously.
Got something brewing.
Yeah, no, I was like, okay, but like, I can't let stuff like that go. Like, I'm very much a person that's like, can we talk about something later? Like, I'll be like, what the fuck is it? Like, let's just talk about it now. Mm-hmm. And he like brought it out, and it had candles on it. It said, happy birthday, Chloe. And I believe it was a Bavarian. Is that like kind of chocolatey?
Okay, I don't know.
It was chocolatey.
German chocolate is chocolate, but Bavarian, I don't know. Are you pretty sure it was Bavarian?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
To be honest, I'm not. This isn't to sound like I was grateful, but I'm just not really a big cake person. I would prefer like an ice cream cake or like.
You're a sweet person.
I'm more savory for sure. Like that's where I'd rather waste like my calories and my carbs is on like savory stuff. Regardless, I just want to say that aside from all the red flags mentioned on the video, there were even more in person.
Oh, good.
He goes to Burning Man every year, which I'm not saying is a red flag, but I'm not saying I love it. He told me that he wants to travel more before his life starts. The man is 30 years old. So what I take to mean by that is you want to travel more before you get what you're considering a prison sentence as settling down with someone, clearly. And then when he gives me the cake, he says that, oh, haha, my buddy said, like, why don't you go ahead and get her a carrot cake? Like, what a power move to show you don't care what flavor she likes. You're just going to give her a carrot cake. And I was like, you really can't stand that you're doing something nice for me, can you? Mm-hmm. Like, you got to, like minimize it in some way.
Right,
like,
right.
This man had issues.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was that. And I think I've been through a couple of shitty dating experiences recently, so I think I maybe knew what to look out for more, but hey, it's not for me.
Did he ask you your favorite flavor?
Sure didn't.
Sure didn't.
No, this is, I feel like there's, and actually, like, my friend put this in her group chat with guys and girls, and all the girls were like, someone said something very interesting. One of the girls said, coming on very strong in the beginning and doing, like, these, like, crazy, like, thing, like, not crazy, but, like, very overt, like, large things in the beginning. It's kind of a different brand of fuckboy that we're seeing, where like they do things very extreme in the beginning to kind of like get you. And to me, it's almost to come on so strong with so much momentum in the beginning that is going to inevitably fade pretty fast is somewhat of the bare minimum to me. Like, I feel like let's like slowly build something. Like, you don't have to do these grand gestures for me in the beginning. The cake was nice. I think it is, to me, it felt like the equivalent of giving someone flowers on the first date, because he knew it was my birthday and he got a cake. But do you want to drive from Santa Monica to West Hollywood to come see me for the next date? Like, do you want to put in more effort into this after this? Like, clearly he didn't. So like the cake then is like null and void. It means nothing to me. It just was like too many red flags.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think the cake is like, sure, you're trying to be nice, but if you're not doing anything else that, you know, would show that you like the person and that you're invested, then the cake just kind of means nothing.
Right. And I think if I was like 21, 22, I would be like, frankly, I feel like this is how they get you. Like, I feel like it's like, oh, he got me a cake, so I'm just going to ignore all the really weird shit he said to me before that. And like, since he did one nice action, oh, he must be a good guy. Ladies.
Well, it seems like you learned a lot from the Sabrina episode, right? Because she sort of talked about that a little bit too, like how sometimes they will do really nice things for you, but if they're not putting in all the work and you know, doing all of the other things, then it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, I think the Sabrina episode helped me. I think, you know, the situations that I found myself in recently have like helped remind me that you got to take things slow and you can't just go based off of one thing. And
Right.
yeah, you got to really listen to what they're saying, because I think a lot of guys are unfortunately unsure about what they want, and you don't deserve to be with someone that doesn't know what they want.
Totally agree. Yeah.
So that's that. And then, so speaking of my Hinge dates, we have someone coming on today that is somewhat of a dating app connoisseur. What would you call her? Maybe a scholar?
A scholar. I think that's a lovely choice of words. Yes, she is a scholar.
Because she has written about dating apps. And if you haven't checked out her Vox article, we will link that for you here and on our Instagram. It's really good. It's talking about what several of the dating apps are doing during quarantine to kind of adjust to this new video dating culture, just some different features that they've implemented, and how you can utilize them during quarantine. So without further ado, we're excited to welcome Serena Coady.
Woohoo!
All right. Hi, guys. We are excited to welcome Serena Coady to the podcast. Thanks for being here, Serena.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And Serena has written for Vox, Metro in the UK. She's also written for Cosmopolitan and Business Insider, as well as a plethora of other outlets. So yeah, thanks for joining us, Serena. I think one of the main reasons we wanted to have you on was a recent Vox article that you wrote about how different dating apps are adapting to this new kind of style of quarantine video dating, and what they're doing to make people, you know, more comfortable kind of getting in front of the camera in this new era.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you want to talk about that a little bit and maybe what inspired you to write that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've always sort of been fascinated by the dating realm. I think, you know, for me, it's definitely been part of my generation and my experience getting to know people. I think when I came out of high school and started to meet more people, that's when Tinder was taking off. So it's always stuck with me, and I've met a lot of my serious partners online, like on dating apps. And when this whole, you know, situation we found ourselves in was blowing up, the pandemic, I don't know why I was so hesitant to name it, but when coronavirus was at its peak or just emerging, I think I was curious about what that would mean for people, how they navigate that space, and whether like it would, and also how apps would respond, and whether they'd see it as a new opportunity to bring people together and try something different. Because I think, I don't know what your experience has been, but certainly with these apps, you can burn out on them. It's often like you might start with a red hot girl on Tinder, love that, and then hate that. Move on to another one, go on to Bumble because you like the idea of it being female first, and then continue on to other ones. So I think that I wanted to see how apps were going to respond to that, and and sort of reinvent themselves.
Yeah, for sure. And you were trying one that I have never tried before. Was it is it the League or just League?
It's called the League, but they have League Live, which is their video speed dating event. And yeah, that was certainly something I hadn't tried before. I tried speed dating a few years ago for an article that I was writing, which is, I guess it's like why I do anything these days, to write about it. But yeah, so I wrote about speed dating in real life a few years ago, and then I always thought it was such a retro concept, and then when I tried it with the League, it was such a futuristic concept. It felt so weird. Like I tried it when lockdown had just been enforced, and to me, it actually, as someone who can be quite, I guess, exacting when it comes to dating, like quite particular, I liked the fact that you didn't have to waste time getting ready to go out and meet them. You didn't have to set aside that time in your day, like after work or, on the weekend. You could just get over and done with over video chat and see if it worked. Which for me it didn't. But yeah, it's I don't know if you know how it works, but the League is basically a more exclusive. It's billed as an exclusive dating app and it's focused on career-driven people, and you're verified by LinkedIn, so it works in that way. And then League Live is a speed dating event that happens. It had just happened on Sunday nights previously, but now they've increased it to twice weekly, so Sunday and Wednesday. And yeah, so you basically meet for 9 minutes of video dates, and you have 3 video dates, and you're just paired randomly.
So you did not find love for your
No, I didn't. I mean, it's kind of a funny way that I tried it. Before lockdown had happened, I had been seeing someone casually, and we had met on Hinge, and we we were at the start of lockdown and we were trying to figure out whether we were to quarantine together. And when I was trying League Live, I said that I said that he should try with me, and to my surprise, he was open to the idea. I think most guys would be a bit like, paranoid that I was going on there to meet someone else, but for me, it was just like the experience of it, trying to see what possibly the future of dating could be. Yeah, so I mean, even if I wasn't seeing someone, I don't think I could have kept trying. I could have kept going on every Sunday, Wednesday night, and I'm sure that it's like a numbers game like it is with regular online dating. But for me, I don't think that maybe 3 dates probably weren't enough for me to find someone that I clicked with.
Yeah, totally. Especially in that speed dating realm, I'm sure is probably hard. Yeah.
My friend moved to London earlier this year, and she broke up with her boyfriend during quarantine. So she entered like the whole online dating thing during quarantine, and it was funny hearing her experience. And when she started like actually meeting people from the apps but in person, it was funny because we were still really strict on COVID in the US. So she was telling me about how she was going to the park, and you're allowed in the park, and you can go on dates in the park in London. And I was like, well, are you wearing your mask while you're on the date? And she's like, what, you want me to make out while wearing my mask? And I was like, yes, that would actually make me feel much more comfortable about the idea of you meeting these people.
Yeah, it's crazy how this whole picnic culture has come back. Like sometimes I feel like I'm in Victorian era London where, you have tea in the garden, and it's like that's all you have. That is all that's on your social calendar. You go out to the picnic, you go out to the park and have a picnic. And yeah, there are people who are meeting like that. I've actually had friends who have met guys the old fashioned way, and they've been approached in the park from a safe distance and like sort of picked up that way, which I think is pretty interesting and refreshing, because I know a lot of people are still meeting online as they were pre-pandemic.
It's honestly more chivalrous, I feel like, than meeting in a bar, right? To say, oh, we met in the park.
I know. I think it goes either way though, because it can be pretty creepy in one way if you're sort of in the park and someone just approaches you out of nowhere and wants to talk. Like I think there is a right time for it and a right social setting. I think maybe it helps if you're with a group of people and someone were to come over and approach you that way, or maybe there was someone in the group you didn't know and they were interested. rather than like I was in the park a few weeks ago. It was when we were finally allowed to sunbathe, thank goodness. And I was out there just reading my book, and this man came up to me out of nowhere and started asking me if I'd seen a tall man with the Dalmatian. Yeah, it's one of the weirder pickup lines that I've got. If there was a real Dalmatian, great, but I really don't think there is. So yeah, that was, I thought his approach was unique, but no, I wasn't keen.
Well, that is something that we wanted to talk about, of what your experience has been like in London dating. And I know you probably have experience in Australia dating, in London. So are you seeing any like just differences there? I think a big gripe I hear in the United States is that we kind of don't get things like that. We're more so on our phones, like people are at the bars on their phones. Like I've even heard of someone like in the United States, this guy liked a girl at the bar, and then he went home to try to find her on a dating app instead of just like approaching her at the bar. Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of like a gripe I hear from a lot of my girlfriends who are dating, is that people aren't very like, they don't approach you like that. So have you noticed like in London, they're like a little more forward, or is there any differences from there in Australia?
I would say that people are probably more forward in Australia. I think in the UK, I guess it depends where you hang out and, you know, what places you go to, what activities you engage with. I guess it's different for everyone, but on the whole here, I find that people are probably less likely to approach you than in Australia. I've been here for a year now. I've lived here since last May. It's not like a huge difference, but I do find there are those, subtle differences in terms of how forward guys can be.
And I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but did you end up quarantining with the guy that you're seeing?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So I ended up staying with him for about 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty intense because we'd only been seeing each other for a few weeks, but we did have that connection, and we're both pretty laid back people, and I think that was key. I think neither of us were like, you know, too demanding or dramatic, or we would just kind of got along quite easily, and we're just happy cooking or hanging out or doing a puzzle or whatever. It's like, so yeah, it worked out really nicely.
I feel like, well, Lauren, what you were saying earlier with your friend that like broke up during quarantine, I feel like that takes a lot of bravery, because this is like a time of uncertainty where people really want human connection. So if you break up with someone, you're like, I don't even care. Like, I just like, the world's ending and I don't care. I don't even need to be with you.
I do really value my own space and independence, and that was definitely a challenge for me, because prior to this, I've only really been in long distance relationships. It's just sort of how like things have ended up for me in the past. I've always been in long distance relationships, maybe because Australia is so far from everywhere and so huge. But this is like probably the first time where I spent so much time in person with a guy. So while a lot of couples have found that they're separated during COVID, I've found that the complete opposite. And yeah, there were some times where it was like, okay, I think I need to take a step back. I just need to like go to another part of his place and just be on my own, or go for a long walk, whatever, or just like have a night where I could FaceTime my friends and family. And I think that really helped. But then as soon as the restrictions eased a few weeks ago, I came back to my flat, and I feel like that's been a lot better for our relationship, actually, like having that physical separation. And it means that we can, I think, go back to that really nice part of getting to know each other, where you can sort of just like put your best self forward and not be around them all the time when you can't be bothered to shower, or you've eaten like, you know, 3 sandwiches. So
no, I think what you're saying about like fast tracking during quarantine, I've heard that from a lot of people. And something a lot of, one of my friends started seeing someone during quarantine, and she's like, I don't know what he's like around my friends and family though. Like I only know him in this setting, which is kind of reserved for a relationship that is a little more progressed. Like, you know, if you're making like dinners, like in the apartment and watching movies, like that's not usually something you do on the first dates. And I know for her, it's like very important for him to like interact with her friends and be out in public and see how he is like with that before kind of like locking it down. So yeah, I don't know if you felt like that with this guy at all, but that's what I've
Yeah,
been hearing.
I totally get what you mean, that you kind of want, a second set of eyes on it. You want like another opinion, and it's always good to have that, filtration process, I think, because as much as you want to trust your own intuition, it is nice to have the people you care about meet them and have their honest opinion. And that definitely matters to me too.
Well, before we read the letter, I wanted to go a little bit more into the different dating apps we were talking about. So I remember hearing about the League when I was in DC, and it was really popular there because something like people really pride themselves on in DC is who they work for and the types of jobs they had. Yeah. So for that reason, I feel like I never really signed up. I know a girlfriend of mine did, and she said it was somewhat of an easy process. If you're a girl, you just have to have somewhat of a job of any kind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Have you run into like any, like when you're on the different dating apps, do you feel like there's certain types of personalities? Like, for example, is this kind of pretentiousness on the League? Have you seen any of that come through at all?
I guess I wasn't really on there long enough to make a huge judgment call on it. From what I found though, they were really accomplished, and a lot of them weren't from the UK. A lot of them were from the US actually. And they were from San Fran, and they worked in startups and in tech, because I think the League live events first started in the US, and that's why a lot of them were on it already. Whereas here, I mean, the League Live was launched late last year, and they predicted then that it would become the next, dating app, like the next Tinder. But Hinge is the app that I most recently was using quite a bit, and I found that being on Hinge in London was different to being on Hinge in other places, just because in London I think there's this concentration of people from all over the world, and they work really hard here, and they're obviously quite career focused. I think you have to be in London because it is so expensive to live here. And so yeah, there's that certain type of person where they're quite ambitious and focused, and I think it's not so much an app thing but more of a location-based thing.
Well, our letter today is actually about a Hinge user, so maybe we can go ahead and get into that.
Right there.
Nice. It says, Dear Damsels, I've been having a hard time finding a quality guy on Hinge recently. Hinge is the only app I use because I feel like it puts out a more serious vibe than Tinder or Bumble, with a relationship being the end goal for most people on there. But all I've been running into are very emotionally unavailable men. Of course, you have the upfront douchebag who I'm able to cut off immediately, but when things seem to be progressing positively for a few weeks or even a few months, I get blindsided with some weird red flags or toxic behavior that isn't conducive to a long-term relationship. I'm willing to try other options or apps, but don't want to sign up for anything that is too casual or too serious too early. I'm at a point in my life where I'd like to slowly build something serious and lasting with the right person. Any advice on different routes I could take to reach this goal would be extremely helpful. Sincerely, Unhinged. Well, Serena, you're saying that's where you found this most recent guy was on Hinge, right?
Yeah, my current boyfriend, I met him on Hinge. And yeah, I can certainly relate to Unhinged in that, yeah, like the app is definitely geared towards people looking for something more serious. I think it does a pretty good job of staying out of hookup culture, which is totally fine if that's what you're looking for. But if you're not, then sometimes you don't want to be accosted with a random dick pic or a late night request.
Yeah.
But, so I think, it's definitely a shitty feeling when you're starting to develop feelings for someone and they turn out to be totally different to what you expected, even if you've only known them online. And you can still develop quite a connection, I think, virtually without having even met in real life. And I can emphasize because, as I said before, I've been in a few long distance relationships, so it does involve a bit of getting to know someone outside of meeting them. But yeah, you don't want surprises popping up down the track, and I guess there's no like one way to protect yourself from that. But I guess what I'd say is that maybe try not to put all your eggs in the one basket for a while and just take your time seeing this person. I think it's good to keep expectations fairly low, and that's not to say keep your standards low. I think you can keep your standards high while still keeping your expectations like, I wouldn't say low, but just like at a realistic level.
Ooh, I like that. Can you say that again? You can keep standards high. Yeah.
Expectations low / realistic. Yeah, so I think it's possible to do both. And I think that it will also help mitigate the hurt that might happen if something pops out, like toxic behavior, like UnHinged wrote before. Like if that kind of behavior pops up later, I think it'll help mitigate that, because, you know, okay, I wasn't putting everything into this person. It's not the be all and end all if it doesn't work with them. In fact, it's probably good that this popped out, because now I can save myself from investing in them further. A good way to try and avoid those red flags and things that pop up later is to just do your research in the first place. Like, do they post anything that's kind of like, do they post racist or misogynistic content online? Like, how do they show themselves online? I think is important to take note of. Yeah, but if you don't want to take that sort of more stalkerish route, I don't think it's stalkerish, but some people might. But, you know, I'm a journalist.
We just did a whole episode on social media stalking, so we're fine with it as well.
Oh, good. Well, I can't wait to hear it. But I'd say that it's always good to have like go-to questions, I think, when you're in that getting to know you period. So that can cover, you know, personal stories or childhood stories, like nothing too heavy, but something that might give more of an indication of who they are as a person.
It does a really great job with the profile, like setting up for a more serious conversation anyway, right? So I'm wondering, like, on the guys' dating profiles, are there things that you could look out for on there to decipher whether you're looking for something more serious or if somebody may be, you know, a fuckboy?
Oh, yeah. There is. Well, something first I want to say about Hinge. I like when you download it, it says it is the relationship app. Like, I think there's like a couple in bed together. It's like the relationship app.
I love the branding on that.
I do think Hinge is getting a lot of trash from Tinder and Bumble. Like, I feel like people are like, oh, I'm not finding people on here, I'm going to go over to Hinge. But then they're still like, you know, in this hookup, emotionally unavailable phase. So there's that. In terms of Lauren's question, I mean, I could go, I have a list, Serena. I don't know if you want to kick that one off.
Well, yeah, I don't not only have a list, but I have Google Drive screenshots that I like to share with friends of problematic profiles. There are so many. Like, some of the questions are like, you should not date me if, and then his answer was like, if you require my attention 24/7. And then the picture of him below he was like full working out. Like, it was the most self-congratulatory image. He was like muscles, like it's just like posing. I was like, you're attention seeking, but the woman you're looking for can't be. And it's just stuff like that where I think you just know it when you see it. It's like it's just your own intuition.
The gym selfies always baffle me, and I don't even care if you're like, oh, like making fun of yourself for doing a gym selfie. Like, maybe just leave it off. Like, maybe just don't put it on. How about that? I saw this TikTok recently and I thought it was so funny and creative, but this girl puts like, I think this is from Tinder actually, but she has like the different guys with like different like fish, because that is such a like, look at me catching a fish. I feel like it's maybe a hunter-gatherer type thing. Yeah. Like, look, I can provide for you. But she rates all the fish. She's like, oh, that fish is shiny and nice. I hope you threw it back in. And then like she goes to the next guy and like talks about the different fish.
That's awesome. I have to find this. Are fish pictures the new dog pictures? Is that the trend?
There's so many dog pictures. Okay, there's dog pictures. There's pictures of them with their nieces and nephews, which I think is, have you seen like a million of those?
So many. I hate it. I think it's so manipulative.
It's like, manipulative in the sense that they're trying to be like, look, I can be a good father one day. Like, that's totally what they're trying to do.
It's icky. It feels icky.
Too.
Yeah, exploiting them. Yeah. There's that. There's so many like different trends on there. But I will say a deal breaker for me, just because I like have a really big love for animals, is I don't mess with anyone that's like posing with a captive tiger or like stuff pictures. Like that.
Oh,
yeah.
What are they trying to convey? I don't know. Maybe they think it's like, it shows that they're well traveled or something like that.
I think it's like, oh, look at me with this majestic animal, and like maybe somewhat of a sense of danger. Sometimes I do call them out though. Like, someone tried to talk to me with a tiger pic the other day, and I was like, hey, that captive tiger pic is just not for me.
Good on you.
I don't know that they're going to change their ways, but like, yeah, you never
know.
is gross.
Or we've got all these Joe Exotics running around the apps. That's not what we want.
Yeah, no thanks. But back to her letter. I mean, outside of Hinge, I don't know. I've tried Match before, but
Match seems really old. Like that's what my parents are on.
well, yeah, it's kind of like, I think it's a lot more serious. And something I ran into a lot on Match was like, guys would ask me like a million questions up front. And then if I didn't respond, like they would message again.
What kind of
And
questions?
just like, what are you looking for? Like, what, like, why are you here? Like, what do you want? Like, it's very, I think people on Match are like ready to get married like yesterday, which is, I mean, that can be good. I mean, I think I am looking for something a little more serious, but there also needs to be a balance of getting to know someone. And like you were talking about, Serena, like building that foundation before like diving in right away.
Yeah, and it should be fun at first as well. Like that's something that I think dating app users or, you know, dating website users should remember, that it should actually be fun.
Right.
It's like, you know, just an add-on to your life. It shouldn't be like, you know, it shouldn't become everything, and it shouldn't be taken so seriously. Like, I mean, you can take it seriously in that you can be careful with it, but I think it should be light in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. But I wanted to kind of address her thing of like other routes of meeting people too. Because that's hard. And especially now that we're quarantining, it's very hard as well. My friend was actually talking about a new app called Talkify, and I think it's kind of like a matchmaking service.
Okay.
She was saying at the end of the day, it was a little too expensive.
I've always wanted to experience the OG matchmaking service, which is my friends recommending someone, but they have not served me in any such way. Ever since I wrote that Vox article, my inbox has been flooded with so many different people trying to promote their new dating app that's like quarantine focused and whatnot, and video dates focused. But there was one that I found really interesting. I think it's called Here Now. And it's basically they create mixes for singles. It's US based, and they create mixes for singles, and now they've started doing them virtually. And basically what that is, it's like a Zoom chat, much like what we're doing now, but with like a dozen singles, and you go there and they like set the mood. They have music and they issue different questions for people to engage with, and then at the end of it you can have breakout rooms. It's kind of like, I guess, a different take on online dating.
I think it is easy to get burned out on one app, and there's a ton of apps popping up now. I think I've gotten one for like Meet Mindful or something, where it's like supposed to be mindfulness dating and things like that. But something that I've really embraced, like you were talking earlier, Serena, is this first date being a video date? Because I feel like it's very good for several reasons. Like I've talked to people before and they've been excellent texters, and then I get to them in person and they just like are terrible socially. Like they're just like a mute, or they're
it's
like
the other way
nothing.
around as well. They could be bad texting, but like great speaking in person or over the phone.
Exactly. And then jumping on a video date with them is such an easy way to really gauge kind of what they're going to be like in person, more so than just texting them. So I think it's great, all the companies that are doing like this video dating services. Like honestly, I feel like after this, like I might make it a requirement, even when we can go out in public, just to do a video date first, just to screen it before, you like waste time and a full face of makeup
and money.
Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I would just say, like, if you're getting too burnt out on one app, like maybe try something else, maybe take a break, but yeah, I don't know if you guys have any other advice besides that. I just think, like you said, there's so many apps popping up now, and it might take a little while to find the one that's right for you. So if Hinge isn't working, maybe shift to something else and see if that's working.
Definitely. And maybe like change your search criteria as well. Like if you're looking for someone who lives near you, maybe look a little bit further, or if look in a different age range to what you're normally used to. Like when I came to the UK last year, I met a few guys, and I saw someone kind of seriously for a while, and they were on the younger side. They were more like late 20s, mid to late 20s. And honestly, I just didn't find that my personality gelled with many of them, just because they weren't at a level of maturity that I wanted. They were sort of just players. But this year, like before I met my current boyfriend, I put the age search parameters higher so that I didn't want to be, I was just over guys in their 20s. I think I started at maybe like 27. I put just 27 as like the bottom, and then I put like late 30s as the upper limit. And yeah, it worked for me. I mean, I think it just depends, I guess, from person to person. Like even guys in their late 30s can be really immature, but I think just changing what you normally search for can also be helpful, and just like a nice reset, like that's a really simple way to do it, and it may not work, but still you never know.
Yeah, and I think that, diversifying your hobbies too, like this is a great time, we've talked about this before, but to take a French class or, whatever hobby, like an acting class, a voiceover class. I feel like I'm meeting so many people online through the classes, and like, not expanding my professional network, but also making new friends. And you're getting a little burnt out on the apps, like I do think that just by expanding your network, it's this matchmaking thing, right? Like you might meet somebody online who then says like, oh, when this is all over, I have a friend who I feel like would be a great option for you. And then you learn a new skill or something. So I just think that like bringing a new skill into your life will bring new people, and also just bring, new energy.
Exactly. Yeah. Like sometimes I think just by bettering yourself and improving yourself and expanding upon your skills is just nice anyway. And the goal may not be to meet new people, but that could just be a byproduct of it.
Right.
I guess it's good to always open yourself up to new experiences. I'm all for that. So yeah, that's a great tip.
I used to know a girl who joined different workout classes when she moved to a new city so that she could make her social network that way.
That so
almost makes me want to be fit.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Everyone's like, oh, like I want to meet someone at the gym. I was like, no one wants to talk to me at the gym. I don't look cute at all. Like I'm like sweaty and gross, and if someone did approach me, I'd probably be like too out of breath. I'd be like, no, get away.
Same. Yeah, if on the odd chance I actually went to a gym, I don't think I'd be in the right mindset to talk to people, because I'd be so in my own head about like getting everything done. But I guess for some people, they go to these classes and it's more like second nature to them, and they know what to do, and they're just a bit more relaxed.
Well, Serena, I felt like I could listen to your accent all day.
Do I have an accent? Some people think I'm British, or some people think I'm American.
It is an interesting one. Do you feel like being there, you've kind of picked up on some stuff like and added to your Australian accent?
No, I just feel like people here, like as soon as I say I'm Australian, they're like, oh, like they didn't even suspect it before. Really? Which is kind of annoying, but I guess it's because I'm like mixed race, so people see me and they don't think, oh, Aussie straight away. They don't know what to think. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm glad you think I have an accent.
Well, I feel like being American, no one really likes our accent, so we're always very excited to hear a different kind of.
Oh, well, you both have lovely accents.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time, and we want to give you an opportunity here to plug any projects you're working on or any kind of platforms you'd like people to follow you on. So
I'm on all the social media pipes really, but I guess Twitter, I'm pretty active on Twitter, just at Serena Coady. My last name is spelled Coady, not Cody. I also shoot aerial photography. So I have an account called Drone Girls on Instagram if you'd like to see aerial photography from women around the world. So that's at Drone Girls _ at the end.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, beautiful discussion
from a beautiful woman who is just doing the thing. I was excited to hear that. I follow her on Instagram, so I feel like I saw a guy kind of popping up a lot, and I was like, oh, I wonder if something's going on there. Wasn't it interesting to you that she said when they first started dating, she said for them both to join League Live?
I know.
That's what a good
woman, right? Like
I know. I was gonna say, what a good example of stepping back and being like, hey, let's do other things before we super commit to each other.
Yeah.
Which is probably stronger than I could do. I don't know if I was liking someone, if I would encourage them to join League Live, but
yeah, but it did sound like she was also doing it as, an experiment for her writing.
That's what I was going to say. That girl is a career woman, because she said, we're going to do this first because I got to do it. I learned a lot about the apps. I have to say after it though, Hinge is still the OG.
You think so?
Unfortunately, I think that they're doing it right. I would like to see some stats. Maybe we could look that up later of where the most people are on. I think the most people are on Hinge these days.
Well, an interesting statistic would be the amount of people that end up in relationships, like from each site, right?
From Hinge, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, maybe the only way to measure that, though, is, well, I don't know, through marriage. But
I guess they'd have to self-report, but I know that kind of comes with an element of shame for some people, because some people don't want to admit that they
right.
met on
My friend is actually engaged. I think they met on Tinder. And I don't think that they disclose that they met online. I think they have some other story.
I get that, but honestly, that's where most relationships happen these days. So there's really no shame to it, I don't
wonder
think.
what my mom says, actually. That's interesting. We'll ask.
What platform did your mom meet her boyfriend on? Match?
Match.com, yeah. That's why I associate it with my parents. I didn't realize that people in our generation were on it.
There's I shouldn't say this about Match because maybe they'll sponsor us one day, but digging through a lot of trash.
On Match?
I feel like a raccoon. I'm just out there trying to find a quality piece of garbage.
Oh my God, what a quote.
It's a lot of, it's intense right away. And I'm like, ooh, let's take a step back from that. I did have to say to this guy, because he was texting me like all day, every day. And as soon as I text him back, I get a text back right away. It's like all these questions. And then if I didn't text back for a few hours, it would be another question.
Oh, no.
And I literally just said, hey, this is a lot all at once. I'm sorry. I don't think I can keep up with it, but best of luck to you. He said, within 2 seconds, he said, okay, I was just trying to get to know you, but yeah, like, good luck out there. And like, you know, some of my friends were like, aw. No, not aw. That's not normal behavior. That's not behavior I would do to someone that I just met. And frankly, he obviously is not going to take this feedback and be like, oh, maybe I should slow it down in the beginning. He will just be like, oh, all girls are bitches, and run away and do the same thing and not have the same results. So like, no, not all. That's not something I would do to someone. That's not normal. Like, it's like very hard to find the balance between like overkill and underkill.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a little bit silly to make, you know, you have to be grateful for him texting you all the time. Like, you shouldn't feel bad because you didn't want him, you know, to be coming on so strong in the beginning. I think we've talked about this before, but the most attractive people, and this includes women, are people who have their own lives, and, you know, you are not their life.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, and tune in next week for another episode.
Going down in the DMs.
Bye, guys.